So hello. I'll be doing a tutorial on how to do pizza. And what I like especially about this recipe is that you can customize it as you wish and based on what you have in your kitchen or in your pantry. And so you can add different cheeses if you wish, you can add different types of meat, you can add different types of poultry, you can add, even if you're a vegetarian, you can add different types of vegetable. So it's really good, it's really easy, it's really simple, and it's also without yeast, and you don't have to use an oven. Yeah, you heard right, you don't have to use an oven. So it's stove top, no yeast pizza. Okay, so what I'm doing here is adding 1 tablespoon, of white vinegar to 1 cup of milk, and this is a substitute for yogurt. So if it is that you have plain yogurt, you could use that instead of the milk, but I never had yogurt, and remember we said this is a recipe with whatever it is that you have in your pantry. So I used milk and vinegar instead to get the same effect, and my salt grains were too big, so I dissolved it. I put it in the milk mixture to dissolve it, but if it is that you have smaller grain salt, you can just add that to the flour. Alright, so this step right here is just me being absolutely extra. I decided that night that I wanted to be fancy and I wanted a double cheese pizza, so I decided to add Parmesan cheese to my crust. But you can absolutely skip this step if you don't have Parmesan cheese. You can absolutely skip it, that's totally fine. The previous times I've made it, it was without the cheese and it was just as good. And so here I'm just adding the milk to the dry mixture, to the flour and the baking powder and the Parmesan cheese, etc. So I'm just adding the milk to this and mixing it. So gently or slowly adding it. You don't want to add too much and get a soggy dough. So you take your time and add the milk until it begins to clump together, and then you can go in with your hands and knead the dough. And so this part is extremely important. You have to let the dough rest, and by letting it rest, it means you can just cover it and put it one side and continue on with the recipe and then go back to it. And so now you prepare your topping, and as I said before, this is extremely customizable, so you can add whatever it is, or you can prepare whatever it is that you want. I've used before, these are some examples that you can use. I've used before onions, I've used caramelized onions, I've used different types of sweet peppers, etc. So you can add literally whatever it is that you like, but in this particular tutorial I'm using some pork cutlets and sweet pepper only. So I don't know why, but my family literally uses this Maggi pumpkin seasoning in almost every single thing that we cook in. And so I use that to season the pork cutlets that I have here, and I'm just frying it up. I like it crispy. I don't like, yeah, I am that type of person. I like my meat well done. And so I'm frying it for a while until crispy, and then I remove it and drain on a paper towel, or just drain it somewhere. You don't want any extra grease on your pizza. So as you can see, my dough is soft and pliable, and it was really easy to roll out. So that was the reason for resting the dough. We don't need any tough dough around here. We don't want any tough crust. And so leave your dough to rest. If it is that the dough is resisting while you are trying to roll it, leave it for a little longer and allow it to rest. I left it here for, I believe, a little over 30 minutes. And so I'm rolling it out to 12 inches in diameter because I have a 12-inch pan, and yeah. So you add the flattened dough to a lightly greased pan. I greased this pan with butter, and you can shift it around in the pan. The pan is on low heat, by the way, so you can shift it around in the pan and reshape it while it's in the pan. It should be cooled, or it should be just warm to the touch. Alright, so I'm sorry, but the only cover that I had that was larger than 12 inches that could fit on this pan was the pressure cooker cover, and so that's what I used to cover the pizza while it was cooking. And so I left it there for about 8 minutes, and then I flipped it. So I added the toppings and the base and the cheeses on the part that was already baked. So as soon as I flipped it, I left it for about 2 more minutes, and then I started assembling. After adding the tomato paste, cover it for it to cook for a while. I personally don't like the tangy taste that raw tomato has, and so the heat does something to it. I don't know, but I know that there's a difference, and so I leave it to cook for a while. So I cover it and leave the tomato paste to cook for a while before adding the cheese. So I'm the type of person that loves spice. Like I have to have spiciness in my food, and so I added a little black pepper to the cheese, just for, you can skip this step, I guess, if you aren't a fan of pepper. But I added a little black pepper on top of the cheese, and then of course I went ahead and added some more cheese on top of the cheese, because you can't ever have too much cheese. But you don't have to be extra like me, you can just add a regular amount of cheese. And now I'm just assembling the pizza, and I'm adding the sweet pepper and the pork cutlets that I fried a little earlier. And afterwards I cover it and leave it for a while for it to steam. And remember, everything is already cooked, it's just the sweet pepper that I'm leaving to cook some more now on the stove. So I leave it for about 5 more minutes. I cover it and leave it for about 5 more minutes, and this is all on low heat, and that's it. So this is my double cheese pork pizza. It was really good, but don't take my word for it. I hope you try this recipe and see for yourself.